An early stop is the Sun recording studio, pictured here with Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins. Wonder what he's up to nowadays. Presley had a permit to carry a concealed Colt revolver, presumably not while wearing this dressing gown. Film scripts are here, along with some of his African memorabilia. His stage clothes are a central attraction, and the guitar he played during the last concert before he died. Endless videotapes repeat again and again news film of his time in the US Army. It's a formula the fans appreciate.
Oh, it's excellent. Really excellent.
Well, you've got some fantastic pictures, the music's around you all the time. It's with you all the time you're going around. I just fell in love with it.
Fans have until November the 4th to enjoy this Elvis experience. Up to 300,000 are expected to do so. Peter Sharrett, TVAM, Blackpool.
Peter also living out a dream there, I think. Joining us now is the man who brought that exhibition to England, Todd Slaughter, Secretary of Elvis's British Fan Club. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Todd. Quite an achievement, actually, to do that. Did you have much trouble in gaining permission and so on, getting all Elvis's stuff out?
Not really. The trustees of the Elvis Presley estate had been looking for some time to present the Elvis Presley story in the part of an exhibition overseas. They've got Graceland, which is a tremendous success. Yes. Up to 1 million people a year will visit the property this year, and they had been approached by Japanese business people and some people from over the United Kingdom to do just that, but we got in there and we've done it.
They're desperate to put right, aren't they, the trustees? All the lies that, or what they see as lies, have been spread about Elvis over the last few years.
It seems very sad that for many years, since Elvis Presley died in particular, that the press has concentrated on hearsay and rumour, which has tarnished an incredible man's image.
You met the man, didn't you? I think we can show pictorial evidence of you meeting the man towards the end of his life. Yeah, well, what were your impressions? There we are.
That's right. I was there just 6 weeks before Elvis Presley died. We'd taken a group of fans to see Elvis in concert, and surprisingly, we saw the last 2 concerts Elvis Presley performed. That film was shot at Indianapolis Airport on the day that he performed that last concert, and then 6 weeks later he died.
What was your impression of him? I mean, so many thousands of words have been written about the last few months of his life, overweight, drugs, and so on and so on. What was your impression of him? Well,
I mean, he really was a nice guy, but he was very, very shy. As gregarious as an entertainer he was on stage, off stage, he really was so shy.
We've got Carl Perkins here, who we'll be chatting to, and Carl actually featured in the film report, so it's great to have him here. How would you, though, Todd, explain the attraction of Elvis? How would you... It's almost a mystical thing, isn't it, the attraction?
Yes, it is. I mean, you could put all sorts of connotations to it. Quite honestly, Elvis Presley's touched so many people's lives.
But why?
I think if you knew the ingredients, you could probably create another one, and you're not going to do that. He was an incredible communicator. He communicated his music, his looks, his abilities throughout the world, and still doing it today, 12 years after he died.
Isn't the one thing that we often forget is that every time you listen to an Elvis album, you're reminded he was just a great singer.
Of course,
he was a great crooner, one of the greats of all time, I think.
He was,
in that respect.
He certainly was the best. And in spite of the fact that today's pop music is working so hard to create new giants, it never will create one as big as Elvis Presley.
Every time you see an Elvis exhibition or something, you do see these Elvis lookalikes and so on. And you laugh and you smile a bit. But would you describe yourself as a man of sense?
Well, I don't dress like Elvis Presley. And
you don't look much like him either.
That's for sure. And most people are very disappointed that I don't appear in a draped suit and blue suede shoes, but I don't do that. Yeah. There's an awful lot of Elvis fans do, and there's a lot of Elvis fans who dress up as Elvis Presley.
The thing I love about you, Todd Slaughter, is that you changed your name, didn't you? Well, now, your name's Todd Slaughter. Which would you get out there with the word that time changed? What's your real name?
My real name's Brian Slaughter. But when I went to school...
I just think that's so funny.
When I went to school, all my teachers who remembered Todd Slaughter, the actor, decided that I should be called Todd, which was great because I was called by a Christian name and whilst everyone else is called by a surname.
Yeah. Well, we often overdo the Elvis bit, but I think to his millions of fans, he's still very much the king.
Yes, he is, and will be forever.
I think we got Carl.
I was just going to say, I'm intrigued as to what you've got behind that cushion, Todd.
Well, everybody's been talking about Elvis rock. Well, I've bought some Elvis rock. In fact, I've brought the rock to Camden Lock, so I rock some rock.
Of course, with the exhibition at Blackpool, that's very appropriate. You're coming down to London with it a bit later on, aren't you? The exhibition.
Good news.
Good news. Yes, we are.
Now, Carl, we have to ask you. And we've heard Todd talking about Elvis, calling him a shy man off stage. You actually knew him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was he shy?
He really was, Kathy. He was, I was never around a guy with so much energy. Back in the early days, in 1954 and 55, until Elvis left Sun, we worked together quite a bit. We worked the little schoolhouse gymnasiums, flatbed trucks around eastern Arkansas. He really was a shy boy, but he would never sit around a lot, you know. Some of the other dudes, Johnny Cash and I, would be sitting there talking about olden times, and Elvis would be climbing a ladder backstage with a water pistol shooting at it. He had a world of energy. And a lot of times when he was on the stage, of course, he always had to be last. The worst mistake ever made was trying to put Elvis on first. Nobody could follow him. And a lot of times, I would be standing beside the stage, and somebody would say, "What's he doing now?" I say, "He ain't done nothing yet. He moved a little finger." And the crowd would be just screaming and hollering. Really, Kathy, I have, from the side of the stage, watched kids pull fingernails off and never knew it happened till the next day. He mesmerized them just
sort of
by...
adulation is incredible, isn't it?
It really was.
Do you think it was more then than it is nowadays? I mean, pop stars nowadays have a lot to put up with in terms of lack of privacy and so on. Was it worse in the 50s and 60s?
Well, with Elvis, and thanks to him, a little of it rubbed off on us. They started tearing his clothes. They would chase me, and I'd run slow, you know, because I didn't mind them catching me. I'd like to say, "Hey, I got it."
You hung around a bit.
But it was such a hysterical thing. I don't think we'll ever see that in an entertainer, a single entertainer that really had it all. He had the looks, he had the moves, then he had the management. But most of all, he had that one something that nobody will ever be able to figure out exactly what it was, the whole world. He'll never go away.
Rock.
Yes.
Your father had something as well. He's one of the all-time greats. His name was...
They were both called the King, of course.
Well, that's right.
And they knew each other and held great respect for each other, Ewell and Elvis.
Can you define... Go, Carl, go. Yes, I think it's about time we heard some more music, isn't it? We've still got Todd Slaughter with us, the secretary of Elvis Presley's fan club, and Carl Perkins. And before we have any more chat, take it away, Carl.
Hey, my mama told me, she said, "Carl, you might ought to stop. Mama, you're just a little bit late, 'cause your boy's gone to rock. And I feel the rhythm in me, rockabilly music sends me wild." I'm afraid it does, y'all. Oh, excuse me, Mom, 'cause I can't stop. This rockabilly was born to rock, born to rock, born to roll. Well, I'm on rock, 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 chillin' rock. Well, I'm gonna roll, 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 chillin' roll. Well, I'm on rock, 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 chillin' rock. Well, I'm gonna roll, 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 chillin' roll. Yeah, I want to thank you folks for one more shot, 'cause this rockabilly was born to rock, born to rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Great.
Those lyrics are so right. You obviously were born to rock. It started very early, actually, Carl, didn't it? In the cotton fields when you were working there as a child.
It really did, Kathy. I was, oh my goodness, I started picking cotton when I was maybe 6, 7 years old. And my two brothers, Jay and Clayton, who have passed on now, my mom and dad, worked on the same plantation in northwest Tennessee with maybe 50 to 75 black people who were picking that cotton. And when that sun would hang like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you had a little to look forward to. There's two kind of folks down in that part of the country, the man that owned the land and the poor people that did all the work and got very little for it. So music was a release of tension from these people. And I'm a little boy trapped there in that cotton field with no more to look forward to than anybody else, and I can hear Uncle John Westbrook going, yeah, and about 20 rows over, Sister Juanita, whoa, yeah, and I think to myself, hey, they're gonna sing. And when they start going, lay down, my bird, down by the riverside, those that didn't know the words, the humming, the rhythm, that to this day lives in my soul. And by that time, I had already had an old plug guitar, and I'd go home, and I got so mixed up. I loved to hear that hand clapping music, and my dad would listen to country music, and I'd try Roy Acuff's, "Oh, what a beautiful thought I am thinking." He says, "Wrong, boy." My mom would say, "Let the boy sing it like he wants to, bro." But it was getting mixed up with the black rhythm in those fields that caused me to mix a little blues, a little rhythm, and a little country, and they called it rockabilly.
Rockabilly, and then rock and roll was born.
Then the word rockabilly stayed alive for about a year, and then I think a disc jockey by the name of Alan Freed started calling it rock and roll.
Carl, when you look back on your life, I mean, that rhythm you're talking about, it's either there or it's not. I mean, I don't believe you can learn it, but you in a way could have been even bigger, couldn't you? But there was a bad crash, wasn't there? A really, I mean, a tragic crash that happened, a car crash.
Yeah.
What did that do to your lives, to your life?
Well, there's no question, you know, we'll never know. We all know one thing for sure, that when you have, like I did at that time, that happened in March. My record of Blue Suede Shoes came out January the 1st, 1956. This was March the 22nd. And I was on my way to New York to do the Perry Como show. I was booked for the Ed Sullivan show. And we'll never know exactly what the career would have done. I've been asked often, don't you think, you know, it might have been a different story? And people comparing with Elvis and us on the same record label, playing the same kind of music. There was no way to stop Elvis. I mean, if I'd have went on and made them all, that wouldn't have stopped him at all. But I know for sure it wouldn't have hurt Carl Perkins. But I was kind of one of the wild boys at Sun Records. I thought you had to drink a fifth to make a record and make a show, really. Elvis was the cleanest cut dude there, there's no doubt about it. But it was while I was laying flat on my back in Wilmington, Delaware, after this car crash that killed two people, one being my brother, I was forced to look up and do a lot of thinking. And I had a long down period in my life. I said I got so close, and yet I didn't get to make it. But I started then counting the things I had left. My wife, at that time, my two children. And I had to dig myself out of it, but it was a tough thing to go through.
Well, you're a modest man, because the proof of the pudding is the fact that you're here, you're famous, you're doing a tour, aren't you, of Britain? All those years later, thriving, still going strong.
With those sons as well, of course.
Oh, and
they're performing with you.
So happy. I got two of my sons working with me. My oldest son stands on drums. My youngest boy, Greg. I have two other children at home, a daughter and another son. Still married to the same beautiful little red-headed lady for 37 years.
Still got the rhythm.
Oh, yeah. Life's been mighty good, and I'll be playing here at the Town and Country Club Saturday night. I've only got 3 dates in England this time, but I hope to come back later this year, and because I love this country. This country has meant so much to me because of people like the Beatles and the great English groups that have cut my songs. I just love it, and the fans are the greatest in the world.
You meant a lot to them. We should ask Todd Slaughter. I mean, with Todd, you're a man who centers a lot of your life around Elvis, but we're next to a man here.
He's a legend, he really is. I mean, he's incredible. And listening to Carl sing a few minutes ago, I mean, we've only just got oldies radio stations in Britain. They're only just starting. But isn't it a shame that we don't have any country radio over here? We've never